What if someone feels just stuck in a relationship? Maybe there's narcissistic tendencies, maybe not, but they feel stuck in a relationship. What's a good conversation that someone should have with their partner to evaluate where it's at and how they can get unstuck, whether there's narcissism or not? What's just what's your opinions on that?
I mean, it's a different scenario, right? Because I think in a narcissistic relationship, you're working for survival. Right, so you may not even, I have to tell you, people in narcissistic relationships may not initially feel stuck. They may be like, okay, it's like the MacGyver of relationship situations. Like, what kind of duct tape do I need to use to fix this thing, right? So you're doing. Where people feel stuck in a narcissistic relationship is when they get in too deep. Share a place, kids, marriage. That's where the stuckness happens, because I think by and large, and then honestly, there's one big interesting thing with narcissistic relationships is the fear that the narcissist is going to change for the next person.
Oh,
because there's a lot of stuff they like about that person. Like, they're really attracted to them. They have great sex with them. They're charismatic. They have shared interests. People love them. They've got a really amazing career, job, talented, status, whatever it may be. There's a lot of magnetic qualities. And so that idea that the new person is going to get, Mr. Magnetic is actually really overwhelming. But in the sense of stuckness, it's an interesting issue, and it's something I've encountered even with couples I've done therapy with. And it's, listen, there's the, there's sort of the kind of the standard advice around, like, how do you start dating again in this relationship? How do you keep that piece of it alive? How do you keep giving it some level of priority status? How do you make sure you do communicate, make the time? Like, part of that is, mindfulness has such an important role in human relationships, not just intimate relationships, all relationships. Everybody's talking about mindfulness. It means paying attention to what's in front of you. And that means that it can be the littlest things about, oh my gosh, that's right, he had an appointment, he had a meeting at 2. You text him at 3, like, hey, how did that meeting go? I was just thinking of you. That stuff becomes the stuff of the relationship. And then saying, hey, you had a tough one today. Let's cook this, go here, pop the champagne. It's that idea that someone's noticing you. So mindfulness can be one piece of the stuckness. The other is, do you have shared vision? We talk about this in the workplace all the time. But is that there? Because it does, and that doesn't even mean there's something wrong with someone if they don't have shared vision. But sometimes if you don't have that can contribute to the stuckness because you're not working towards a common goal, right? If you have a company and one person's like, I want to sell lots of hand lotion, and the other person's like, I really envision us as being a salsa company, you're going to be stuck. Right? Someone's chopping tomatoes, someone's like putting on all this lotion, so you're going to be stuck. So it's the salsa hand lotion of it all. Like, one of you may be wanting to work towards family and children, the other one wants to travel the world. Both people are afraid to talk about it. And so how do you get unstuck? You actually go to the edge of the cliff and recognize that if you open up and they go, because that's the fear. That fear of abandonment, that fear of being alone, that fear of loss, that if you can go to the edge of the cliff and say, this is actually what I want, and can tolerate that early in the game, especially if you don't have stuff like kids and commitments and all of that, where you've spoken your truth, and they can say, that's not what I want, and not personalize it. Because as kids, it's almost like the equivalent of bringing our picture to our parents and say, look what I drew, and the parent not caring. Or even worse, the parent saying, you're not my kid anymore because that's a bad drawing.
Oh my God, yeah.
Right? And so the idea that we could bring our truth to someone and they'd say, yeah, no, that's not what I want. It starts becoming the sunk cost fallacy, which kills most relationships, right? That's the idea of, I've already put all this resource into something. That's how people get stuck, is the sunk cost fallacy. And you've got to remember, behavioral economics often does have some of these answers. You've already put the money in, you got a human experience, don't put more into this. And so then you have the conversation. And I've actually seen some people have beautiful ends to their relationship where they say, I still have this, I'm not ready for X or Y, I don't want to do X or Y. that's not the direction I want to go in. And they manage to salvage friendships and genuine curiosity in each other. And then that's that.
Yeah.
But it's scary.
It takes a lot of courage for someone to end a relationship, no matter what type of,
And I wouldn't even say it's ended. I think it takes a lot of courage to speak your truth in a relationship. 100%. It's not even the ending. It's saying, what I want in this relationship is I want us to I want to have kids. I want to move out of the city. I want to put our focus there. And the other person might say, I don't want those things. And that's when you say, okay, then we're on very different paths. But it's so easy for me to sit here in a studio and intellectually say this. Let's say I'm a 39-year-old woman. That's not what then? Right. What then?
Yeah.
Now you're thinking, oh my God, I want a child. This is what's in front of me. But I'm good. And then they start doing the math. I'm going to meet.
How many years?
Now I'm 42.
I want to find someone. Is there someone better than this? Yeah, all these things.
It's not even or not even better as much as somebody who's more on my path.
Aligned.
This is how it happens, because we do forget that there is a sort of a biological piece to all of this. I mean, reproductive technology is changing that. And some women out there, and women close to me have said, you know what? I want the kid. I'm not so sure I want the relationship. And should I fall in love with someone? I don't want to fight with them over custody. So women are having their own children without a partner and saying, now motherhood's out of the game. It's actually easier to date. And now I'm going to meet a man. Either he wants a woman with a child or he doesn't. If he doesn't, he's not my guy.
Right.
But I'll never have to fight this guy for custody of this kid. It's a new world. And people who are making allowances for not wanting to get stuck in toxic relationships are going a different path. And I know men who have done that too. Men who have gotten surrogates and said, I want to be a father.
Without the...
They find this, I'm going to get donor eggs. They get donor eggs, and they find surrogates, and they're like, I want to be being a father to me was foremost. Wow. If I meet and fall in love with someone, super, but I want to be a father. It's not cheap, though. So these are very privileged folks who can do this. But the fact is that there are paths forward in a way, and I think that the amount of damage, Louis, that people being raised in toxic relationships, having witnessed toxic relationships, may be one of the biggest psychological crises that most people bring into adulthood. So I think making different
how we were
choices,
raised,
how we were raised.
Yes, and not breaking the cycle.
We have crappy blueprints.
Very crappy. I have this, I don't know if I want to call it a formula, but just some steps that I've been developing through my own healing journey and reflection of previous relationships and now being in a very, I would call, conscious, healthy relationship. I would love for you to either pick apart or validate or add to or whatever you want to these kind of steps that I've been putting together myself that I think have helped me in this transition towards what to create when stepping into a new relationship. The first one is for a conscious, healthy relationship. The first one is you working on your healing journey before you get into it. Yeah. Or if you're into it, start it while you start the relationship, being in a healthy, focusing on a whole healthy body, mind, spirit, and soul. Healing the past and being on that journey. Step one. Without that, I feel like it's not a strong foundation, right? Because you're going to be more susceptible. Step two is, I don't know if this, for me, feel free to pick a hole at this. Step two would be to do the love language test with the person you're dating and to see if you're in alignment with the way you receive and give love naturally. I think in previous relationships, for whatever reason, I chose women that didn't receive the love that I naturally gave. They liked acts of service and gifts. Where I was like, I don't care about giving someone a gift because it's not value for me. I like praising someone and touching someone.
Words of affirmation guy.
Yeah, and touching them and giving affection and telling them how much I appreciate them. Like, but they wanted a gift to feel loved because that was their blueprint. So I was always doing something that was more work for someone to feel loved. And in the current relationship, we have like identical love languages in order. So we both naturally show up who we are and feel loved by the other person. So it's just less friction. I don't have to think, I need to buy a gift or I need to do this every week that I normally wouldn't want to do. So that's number two. Number 3, 4, and 5 is getting clear with your honest truth about your values, your vision, and your lifestyle. Yeah. Kind of like what you were saying. Like if you're if your values are out of alignment, it's going to be challenging. If your vision is, I want to make hot sauce and you want to make shoes, we have a different shared vision of our relationship. And if you want to live in the city and I want to live in the country with the lifestyle, there's going to be some friction there. Number 6, for me, this was a non-negotiable entering this current relationship. Maybe this is too tough, but for me, I was like, we need to enter a relationship in therapy. And start the relationship in therapy so that we can communicate in a conscious way with a third party about agreements. There's going to be things that come up. There's no perfect relationship. You're going to have a different lifestyle, this and this. But can we create agreements together so there's alignment on our communication, our agreements, to just minimize some friction? Not have expectations, but get clear on agreements and a standard we both have. And then with that, going through those first 6 things, choosing to fully accept the person for who they are. Once you've gotten clear on all these things over a period of time, saying, okay, I'm not expecting you to change into a potential in the future, but do I accept who you are from your values, your vision, your lifestyle, your healing journey? We're doing therapy together. Can I accept this person? My girlfriend, she's an actress, so she does movies. She's on set. She's kissed guys on movies in the past, and maybe she will in the future. I had to be like, do I accept this is who she is? Or am I going to need to change her and say, you can't do this anymore?
Correct.
So I said, I fully accept you, and this process has been very powerful for us. I'm sharing from my personal experience, what's worked for me. Is there anything that you would poke a hole in or add or remove from these kind of 7 things that I've been, kind of playing with myself?
So it's almost like I'd make a step 0.
Okay, give it to me.
And the step 0 is addressing legacy issues and your own traumas and all of that, right? Because the word healing is so ephemeral and it's so sort of non-specific. But when I think of hundreds, probably now thousands of people whose narcissistic abuse in intimate relationship stories I've heard, it was they went into the relationship, and actually I take that back, because some folks enter this relationship confident as can be. It's not like they entered in deficit territory, but it was, for a lot of people, for many people, their own backstory shaped what they thought they even deserved in a relationship. And I will tell you this, and that part of that step 0 is, how do you reconcile yourself with societal messages? You had said something earlier that made me think about this too, which is this idea of the romance and how we view relationships early on. We're very programmed, whether we like to think that we are or we're not. We can, everyone brings up the Disney movies, but it's beyond Disney movies. It's about what a love story is supposed to look like, what at least a heteronormative relationship is supposed to look like. We have these, and this is where we get to this idea of a gift. Like, how many people say, you mean he didn't give you anything for Valentine's Day? And I've had to say that, and I'm in a relationship, and I said, if he brought home something home for Valentine's Day, I would slap that man silly, because I figure, what are you wasting your money for, fool? But the day after, the candy's off 50%, so you're welcome to go to CVS and grab me a box, honey. So it's
because your value was something different.
Right, So, and so it's that. But beyond that is that we get this message of what it's supposed to be, and when it's not that, we think, well, there's got to be something wrong with me. And so I do think that there's some pushing back on existing sort of societal messaging. There is being aware of one's own legacy issues. What are you trying to work through? One's own history of trauma and those kinds of adverse experiences from early in life. To me, those are sort of like the step 0 before the step 1.
So being aware of those things, talking to your partner about them, or just being aware?
No, I think that's the word. Step 0 is almost like before you ever meet any partner.
And part of me is thinking, the healing journey is being aware of those things, addressing them, reflecting on them, and then starting to integrate it, some type of therapeutic healing process.
And then I think that the other thing I'd say is going back to that societal message, is the abyss of it all. Like, I think a lot of people would hear a list like that and be like, homie, you're high. Like, if I do this, I am going to be alone for the rest of my damn life.
But I was willing to do that.
You were.
Because I had felt so much suffering inside from the pain. I was like, I'd rather be alone with a cat and dog.
Correct.
Be peaceful.
Right.
Than be in a relationship where I have to, give up who I am every day and walk on eggshells.
But that means that people have to understand that giving up who I am means that they value the who I am, that's actually something to give up. Right. And I think that I wish this happened in school. I wish that a significant part of the curriculum was on the who am I? What am I about? What do I stand for? What matters to me? What are my values? I got a text from my daughter 2 days ago. She's in college right now, still trying to figure out her major. And she texts me and she's like, Mom, I've decided I'm going to pursue a career in the arts. And I texted her back, like, that is absolutely magnificent. And she texts me back, said no mother ever. Do you realize that I'm probably never going to have a lot of money? I said, girl, I've been broke since I was 50. So I said, and I wasn't happy. So I said, if you wake up every day excited about what you do, you're good. And so what my daughter was doing was she was unfurling herself in front of me. Now inside, am I thinking like, rice and beans and your studio apartment? Okay, yeah, you could do that. You could do that. That's all. But you know what? If you're doing what you love, that rice and beans in that studio apartment is going to be A-okay.
It's going to feel like a filet mignon,
And she's loved. That this is not like, how dare you take this expensive education. You are loved, and I want you to be you, and I want you to find your path. A narcissistic relationship does such a number on you. You have now been living in someone else's reality, right? People forget, like, do I like pepperoni pizza, or do I enjoy this TV show, or what temperature do I want the house at? Like, you literally lose sight of your own subjective sense of who you are. You lose sense of reality.